Hello and welcome to Odds on Premier League Match Day 35. Only 4 games left to know which team is going to win the Premier League, Man City or Arsenal, and to know which team is going to get relegated, Tottenham or West Ham. Tom, this is changing in every minute. Even now, end of April, Arsenal struggling, but just 1 game away from the Champions League final, and 4 games away, easy ones, to be crowned champions.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, to go into the last 5 games, and the title race currently is being decided by goal difference. I know they're 3 points clear at the moment, but if they win their game in hand, yada, yada, yada. And it's the same down the bottom as well. They're currently separated by 2 points, as you say, West Ham and Spurs. Right now, I'd put it at 50-50 for the title and 50-50 for 18. The bookies might go slightly for Arsenal and slightly for West Ham, which means there's money to be made right now on Man City and Tottenham.
No, actually, I can see right now in Oddspedia, Tom, and Man City is 1.9 in Bet365 and Arsenal 2 in William Hill.
Wow.
Check.
Well,
there you go.
The Opta probability has it the other way around. The AI has done it differently. Who knows? Who knows?
Of course. Well, check Oddspedia for the best odds. That's why we are well known for around the world. Well, guys, let me know in the comments your opinion, which team is going to win the Premier League, which team is going to get relegated. Really, really interesting ones. Let's go on now with the show. And we start with a game on Friday evening. This is a massive game for Leeds. Burnley, because they are now +6 with Tottenham. Therefore, if they win here, they'll be almost safe, even if they lost the FA Cup semi-finals against Chelsea. In the Premier League, they are in really good form, 2 wins and 2 draws. Burnley completely gone, relegated, Tom. So Leeds to win, and they are going to stay 1 season more in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I would declare Leeds safe, mainly because I can't see Tottenham navigating to the 40-point mark where Leeds currently are. So, look, they'll feel they want 1 more win. I understand that. I think they want to make it mathematically safe, which they can do very, very soon. But there's no way that Spurs are going to get 40 points from 34 with 4 games left. With the games they've got, they'd have to win 2 of those, and I just can't see that without Leeds getting any further points. Leeds aren't going to lose 4 in a row here. And then the goal difference swing, I don't know, none of it makes sense to me. Leeds have done really well to stay in the Premier League. And that's, we've undersold that achievement a little bit, I think, because we're so focused on Spurs and West Ham and even Nottingham Forest this season. It's not a great squad, this. Like, when we spoke at the start of the season about the strength of the individual Premier League squads, I thought Leeds had one of the worst, and I'd stand by that assessment. So many of these guys have played way above expectation, their careers going to this point, their Premier League abilities, and they're going into a Premier League game here as favourites with Joe Rodon, Pascal Struijk, James Justin, Jayden Bogle, a lot of guys who are really solid, bottom of the table or top of the championship players. Tremendous run of form has got them to this point. They're incredibly hard to beat, as Chelsea found out at Wembley last weekend. And that run of draws, which I thought would cost them, it hasn't in the end. 13 draws in 34 games. They just made themselves very hard to beat. And those draws, where they could have lost, the difference between where they are, where Spurs are, where West Ham are, where Forest are, and huge congratulations to them. Burnley couldn't do that this season. They've looked relegated for quite some weeks, really ever since that game against Brentford, where they got some of the worst decisions that any team has got against them this season, from the ball hitting Ashley Barnes' big fat belly and them saying it was handball and them disallowing the goal. All of that. It just killed any momentum they were trying to build. And even then, it was an uphill struggle. Not a good enough squad. At home, they've been useless this season. Away from home, they've been useless this season. Just 2 victories, 1 weirdly coming at Crystal Palace a few weeks ago. But 4 defeats in a row. There's no chance for Burnley here. So, look, on this game, with Leeds 1 win away from guaranteeing Premier League safety, I think you got to go for the Leeds win at 1.46. They're massive favourites to win this game. How are you going to make some money? Well, there are some injuries at Leeds, so picking out individuals is tough. Noah Okafor's a man in good form. 𝐿𝐵𝗿𝐿𝐿 is always worth a bet. Beyond that, not many goal scorers in this side to bet on. But I think Burnley are so done now. You're going to see a lot of 1-0, 2-0 and 3-0 losses the rest of the season. Think of the Brighton game. the Man City game to a degree. Leeds win 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0 as a group is 2.75. Leeds are going to win this and get safety. I don't think Burnley will score. Find a variation of that.
Okay, we should go for Leeds, of course. This is kind of a safe bet. Leeds to win 2-0. 𝐿𝐿𝐴 and 𝗀𝗏𝗏 going for the opposite, well, not the opposite, but Leeds to win, and both teams to score. More games on Saturday. Brentford, West Ham. This is a massive, massive one. Brentford is still fighting for the European spots, and they are in bad form. The last win was the 28th of February, defeat against Man United, 5 draws before that, but of course, this is also massive for West Ham. Tom, I guess you suffered a lot against Everton, that late goal scored by Wilson. And West Ham now in the schedule, they have Brentford, Arsenal, Newcastle, and Leeds. How many points you see West Ham getting?
How many I see them getting? I think, well, let me put it another way. I think 6 points is safety. I think 6 points from here with a 2-point gap on Tottenham. Spurs are not going to get 9 points from what is left. So that'd be 2 wins and at least 1 draw. The goal difference swing favours Tottenham. So I think that's what West Ham need. Will they get it here? Oh, it's horrible. It's a horrible game, this, right? Yeah. West Ham are playing really well. They're playing really well. They found a formation. They found a style of play. I think 𝗛𝗏𝗏 and Mavropanos look really good defensively. When they concede a goal now, you've got to really, really work for it. Everton had to really work to score against West Ham last week, and even then, West Ham managed to turn it around. Missed their big chance against Crystal Palace the previous Monday to get the next win required, if you like. I think they will win the Leeds game on the final day of the season. If they win this as well, I think that might be that for Tottenham and for West Ham, depending on obviously the Spurs Villa result the weekend. But they've got 2 tough away games. They've got to win at least one of those. I don't know. I think West Ham have got everything required to win this game. Bowen's in great form. Castellanos is playing well. Pablo makes a big difference. Souček's playing really well. Fernandez playing really well. The defense playing really well. Somerville had some great dribbles last week, even though he's not in the form that he was in previously. So every chance West Ham win this game. They are one of the best teams right now in the league, top 6, top 7 on the form guide. And they've drawn a decent amount of away games as well this season. 5 away draws is not bad at all. In terms of Brentford, I think the European dream is all but gone at this point, considering the teams above them. I know the points tally is tight, but the form they're in, I wouldn't back them to stay above any of the teams that are below them. They won't catch Brighton, won't catch Bournemouth. I don't think catch Chelsea with their new manager in charge, and that leaves you with potentially a Conference League qualification spot if things manipulate in their favour. But I'm surprised Brentford haven't been found out earlier in terms of their offence. There's over the top to Thiago. There's Thiago gets fouled for a penalty, or there's the 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐽 long throw. By the way, those 3 tactics absolutely destroyed West Ham in a game. I think it was Nuno's second game in charge of West Ham back in September time. And when it was really clear that West Ham were going to be in massive, massive trouble this season when they lost that game comfortably and Nuno played everyone out of position. Got good players. They played well on Monday against Man United as we thought they would. It was a tight loss as we predicted. 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝐻 creative. Igor Thiago is the second top scorer in the Premier League with 21. Defence still remains pretty solid. They're hard to beat. Their games have been 2-2 or 0-0 before the Man United game across the last 4. So first and foremost, at 4, this game screams draw. So I'd absolutely be looking at the draw here because Brentford are struggling to win and West Ham have got a decent record away from home this season. So I think it's 7 draws for... you done me there. 7 draws for Brentford and 5 draws for West Ham. That's a really high number. Certainly look at that. If you're going for a winner, I'd probably look at West Ham 2-1. I think it's a really big game for West Ham and they know it. And they have delivered in big games recently. I know they didn't win it against Crystal Palace, but they got a point there. They beat Wolves. They beat Everton. Performed well in the FA Cup against Leeds. So it's really only the Villa game in the last 10 where West Ham have not really turned up. So 11 is quite good for that. And 2 individuals here stand out, the top goal scorers. Thiago, 21 this season. Any time for him as ever. Put that in for 2. Jarrod Bowen, any time for him. Put it in for 8. If you can find a bet with Bowen, goal and assist, that's one of the safest bets of the weekend, I'd say.
Draw possible 𝐋𝐿𝐴 𝐿𝐴 is telling us West Ham to score over 1.5 goals. Let's check here. AI smart bet going for corners. And then we can see right now in our predictions tab under 3.5, which seems very safe. And, well, Brentford or draw. The other double chance. Well, West Ham, I said before the schedule, Brentford, Arsenal, Newcastle, Leeds. For Tottenham is more difficult, I would say. Aston Villa, Leeds, Chelsea, Everton, or same. We can say same.
I think they're pretty much the same now. I think that you can look at the Arsenal game for West Ham as the same as the Villa game this weekend or the Chelsea game. I'd actually argue that West Ham away at Newcastle is preferable to Spurs away at Chelsea, with Newcastle in free fall. So I might even say West Ham have got ever so slightly better fixtures, even though the Arsenal game is the worst of the whole lot.
Indeed. Next game is Newcastle Brighton. Well, everyone now wants to play Newcastle because they are falling in the table. Who knows? If we have 2 more months of competition, maybe they would be struggling to stay in the Premier League. 4 defeats in a row, all defeats since the KO in the Champions League against Arsenal. They competed, actually, but they lost once again, and is the opposite of Brighton, now favorites to go into European competitions, destroyed Chelsea in the last game, and is 4 wins and 1 draw in the last 5. So still, we have good odds here to back Brighton somehow. Is slightly underdog in this game.
Yeah, surprised by that. And I think at 2.75, it's well worth a punt immediately on Brighton to win this game because of Brighton's recent form with 4 wins and a draw in the recent 5. And of course, at Newcastle, as you say, this losing run in all competitions, 5 in a row now. Look, Newcastle have got a few issues that I think have been evident all season. They've not had enough defensive-minded players in terms of right-backs. Livramento's always been injured. They lost Lewis Hall for a long spell of the campaign. They've lost Botman for long spells of the campaign. 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 is struggling now. Nick Pope and Ramsdale both struggled in goal. Midfield, I know that 𝗀𝗶𝗄𝐻𝐿𝐼 is back, but he wants to leave. Tonali is playing, but Hart is elsewhere. And then the other midfielders haven't quite done it. There's been no Joe Linton power this season. Almost all of it he's been missing. And the other guys are good players, but they aren't as good as the trio they once had. And going forward, they're starting 𝗁𝐿𝐿𝐼 every week. And with the best will in the world, and all due respect to 𝗁𝐿𝐼, not a top-quality striker. To go from Isak to 𝗁𝐿𝐼, and then had 4 years of Isak and Wilson as a pairing, or 3 years, whatever it was, it's a big downgrade. So in every area of the field, Newcastle has struggled this season. I think the manager has come to sort of the end of his time there after 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been. I wouldn't be surprised to see them sort of part company with him. And that transfer window last summer, one of the worst in history. I'm sorry, it was awful, the money they spent. Didn't want to lose Isak, obviously, but they did lose Isak. They'd made no plan for it. And 𝗁𝗏𝗏 and 𝗁𝗏 and all these guys just not been good enough for Newcastle this season. They're talking about trying to get rid of 𝐬𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿. They won't make a penny on the near £60 million they spent on him, and he's been injured all season as well. So the enthusiasm's gone. The performance levels will drop down. There's not a great deal of creativity. I think they'll probably win 1, maybe 2 games between now and the end of the season. Any talk of them being relegated is farcical. But look, even the fact that people are talking about it shows you how poor the season has been for Newcastle. And in terms of Brighton, beyond the Tottenham game, where I thought Spurs were the better side, they bust every single match they've played in the last few weeks. Fantastic against Chelsea last week. Liam Brasinia's last game in charge, of course, linked in Liam was awful and needed to leave, and that was significant in terms of what was happening at Chelsea. But don't take anything away from how good Brighton were. The movement, the speed, the creativity, the goals taken, all of it, the defensive solidity. Again, they keep doing this with players that most people, if you speak to them in the pub, have not heard of. Like, you might have heard of Danny Welbeck, he's been around for a long time. You've heard of Carlos Baleba because he's been linked with Man United, 1 or 2 others. But Van Hecke, Matt Sweefer, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀, these are not household names. And the reason I'm putting it in those terms is that they just find players, they find what they're good at, they make them better. And Brighton, towards the end of every season for the last 4 years, have come on very strong. And this will be their 2nd European qualification in, 3 or 4 seasons. So really good team, playing really well, winning lots of games, and finding it very difficult to lose right now. Don't discount the draw at 3.8. I wouldn't be surprised to see Newcastle put on a big performance and get something from this game, and it's always worth a punt. But at 2.75, absolutely take Brighton to win. I think that's a really nice bet there. Danny Welbeck, anytime, 13 goals this season. We've been throwing him in all season. He is fit, and he'll be on the field in the last 20 minutes. If anyone's to get the winner, it probably will be Danny Welbeck. And also, if you're doing draw, by the way, look at both teams to score. Basically 1-1 or 2-2, as Tottenham were with Brighton a couple of weeks ago. That comes in at 4.33. So I think it will just shade for Brighton, this one.
Of course, as captain is telling us Brighton as the underdog, there is very good value on Brighton to win. Perhaps Brighton draw no bet in case there is a draw. Ramsey going for a draw, 𝐿𝐵𝗿𝗍𝗀 going for a win, and David asking himself what happened with Newcastle. Indeed, they just switch off.
Yep.
Next game is Wolves Sunderland. Nothing on stake here because Sunderland are now on holidays, as we saw against Nottingham Forest, conceding 5, against Aston Villa, conceding 4, and of course Wolves going into the Championship. Tom, this is a friendly game.
Yeah, more or less. I do think though on Sunderland they'll be pretty pissed by what's happened the last couple of weeks. I mean, that was a humiliation on Friday. They didn't just lose that game. That's historically one of the worst home performances in Premier League history. It was the biggest home loss since Leicester won at Southampton by 9. That was in 2019. So they'll be furious. Regis Labris will be furious. The players will be furious. Granit Xhaka will be furious. That first half was a decimation of everything Sunderland have been this season. So I think that might liven them up going into a game like this, where they might have been cruising to the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised to hear they'd be on double training. I wouldn't be surprised to hear if players were read the riot act about their professional obligations following what happened on Friday. That makes me think that Sunderland will go there with a renewed vigour that hasn't been there in recent weeks. Look, lots of injuries to deal with, lots of players that have massively overperformed what we expected at the start of the season. A lot of the Championship squad coming in who wouldn't have been good enough, people like Hume and Rigg and one or two others. Look, if they'd have played last season's Championship team, they would have got relegated. The reason they stayed up so convincingly is they signed really well in the summer, people like Xhaka and Brobby and several others. The new team has done well. The old team wouldn't have been good enough, and the new team has started to get injured, and they're flagging a bit. So that's sort of what led to Friday. But I don't think you're going to get that here. And with Wolves, what do you say at this point? I mean, they're just not good enough. They've never been good enough, and I think a lot of the players have sort of given up as well. They gave Spurs a decent game. I thought our cheeky little second bet for a draw last week was about to come off, but they haven't got goals in them. They concede too many. They've gone 3 games without a goal now. I mean, what do you say? Take the Sunderland win at 2.38. Not amazing odds there, I don't think. If you go for Sunderland, I'm torn on this. I thought something different earlier, but now I'm looking at the Wolves form. I'm thinking I'm going to screw up David's graphics, and I'm just going to do something different. Sunderland win to 0. I think with Wolves not scoring in the last 3, I think if Sunderland are going to win this, they're going to win this to 0, and that's going to be a double your money bet. I did sort of think both teams to score earlier, but now considering how few chances they created, not got the odds though, have you? But I didn't do them either. But 3 games without a goal, I think it'll be very similar to the Tottenham game. Pretty unwatchable. Sunderland nick it, and Sunderland will win it without conceding.
Skip this game, don't watch it. But if you want to bet, 𝐿𝐵𝗿𝗍𝗀 going for Sunderland to win. Captain also, I think Sunderland will need a reaction after the defeat. Ramsey going for a draw. Taban going for Sunderland draw no bet, which I think is the safest bets of all.
It's good odds there. You see that? 4. It was 4 for Sunderland win to 0. That's not bad, that.
No, really good. If it happens, it's really good money.
Yeah.
Indeed. And Saturday we have Arsenal Fulham. We listened to Arteta after the game against Atlético de Madrid, kind of complaining because Atlético can put the youngsters in their game against Valencia, and of course Arsenal are under a lot of pressure now against Fulham. Once again, this Arsenal survived a poor game, playing worse than the opposition, and they grabbed a positive draw at the Metropolitano. No, you're saying no, they were not worse than Atletico?
No, I was just saying I was disagreeing with just Arsenal in general.
Okay. Yes, but they are just there. They are only 1 game away in their stadium against Atlético de Madrid to be in the Champions League final, and 4 games away to finally win the Premier League. They have to do a little bit more, I guess, against Fulham, because this Fulham could be dangerous. They are a better team than Newcastle at the moment, Tom. So this could be a tricky game. And it's not only that, as you said before, this is going to... Maybe this goes to goal difference. So at one point, they should try to score more than 1 goal in a football game.
The Arsenal whinging is getting on my nerves. It really is. Like, the way they play was always going to lead to this. It was always going to lead to this. They're winning games on the margins. They're arguing about how long the grass is. I mean, they're complaining about Atletico Madrid changing players, but like nobody helped Atletico, I would suggest, in the game we saw yesterday. I think maybe a regular team playing every single week might have helped them. I don't know. They looked a bit ragged at points against an Arsenal team who, if they had a bit more attacking endeavour, might have been able to win that game as opposed to get the draw and rely on that soft penalty to score. Look, I still would just about favour Man City to win the league. But I do think this is a really lovely fixture. This is about as good a fixture as Arsenal could have got. They can't change much. I would imagine anyone who's a little bit leggy might get dropped. Maybe Zubimendi, maybe Rice, maybe Christian Norgard gets a rare outing. You wouldn't risk Bukayo Saka in a game like this, so he could start on Tuesday next week against Atletico Madrid. I'd expect 𝗵𝗵𝐴𝐳𝐧𝐽 to get the nod in front of 𝐿 who put in a hard-working shift, I thought, in Madrid. Maybe even Martin Ødegaard. Pick one of him or Eze and not both of them in this game. So it will be a few changes. It's going to have to be a few changes considering the efforts put in a couple of days ago. But they have to win. They have to win. They've got to win every single game if they're going to be champions this season. A draw would favour Man City, I think. And I think Man City down the home straight, I'd still back them to win every single game. City, which we'll get to later. So going to need to make changes. But at home this season, they've been pretty comfortable. They've not been wildly entertaining. They get the most clean sheets in the league this season. They've won loads of games by 1 or 2 goals. Win to nil has been a regular occurrence, or certainly winning by exactly 1 goal. So I'll do all the Arsenal bets I've done every season in a minute. In terms of Fulham, I don't think they were great against Aston Villa last week. I think that was a pretty poor game of football, to be honest. I think Villa were really underwhelming, but if Rodgers or Watkins or a couple of other players took their chances, they would have beaten a pretty disengaged Fulham, I would suggest. I think 𝗵𝗵𝗄 and Anderson played reasonably well. I think without 𝗻𝗵𝗄 in central midfield, they lack creativity. 𝗀𝐿𝐼𝐶 is a hard-working player, but has no idea what to do when he gets near the opposition box, and that's an issue in that number 8 position for Fulham. Smith Rowe, former Arsenal player, doesn't do very much. Jimenez and Rodrigo Muniz not in amazing form. Chukwueze, Wilson, I thought were a bit average last week. There's not a great deal of rotation on the wings with the injury to Kevin, and I'd like to see Oscar Bob get the nod here to cause some chaos on the other side, but that means dropping Harry Wilson, I think, who has been Fulham's best player. So, look, it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a difficult game. I cannot see Fulham going to Arsenal and winning. Fulham have never won away at Arsenal in 9 Premier League meetings, 4 draws and 5 losses in that time. They've won just 2 of 19 all-time meetings against Arsenal. I think Arsenal will have enough to get the job done here against the Fulham side who don't have much to play for. I don't see them making it into European competition. So Arsenal win, 1.5. We can do this together at this point. Arsenal win by exactly 1 goal is 3.5. Arsenal win to nil is a regular bet. Look at the corners market as ever, at least 8 for Arsenal. Arsenal win 1-0. That's what's going to happen here.
Correct score 1-0. Also, 𝐿𝐵𝗿𝗄 telling us another boring game. 2-0 for 𝗵𝗵𝗄, 𝐶𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜. Arsenal by 1 goal again. One time they are going to get burned if they keep doing this.
Well, yeah. Bournemouth game.
It happened. It happened already, actually, this season. And let's see, Fulham are dangerous. They have an easy schedule, Arsenal, without leaving the capital, without leaving London. But let's see if they are able to win all 4 games. Sunday, we have Bournemouth, Crystal Palace here. I guess we should all go for Bournemouth to win. Is 1.69. They are 7th in the standings, fighting for European spots. Imagine if Iraola left them in Europe. They drew with Leeds, was the last game, but they beat Newcastle and Arsenal before that. And I'm saying it's a safe bet, of course, because Crystal Palace are only thinking about the conference and the joy to arrive to a European final. They are playing on Thursday against Shakhtar, so we don't know what is going on here, there. But, Tom, we can only bet on Bournemouth, I think, in this game.
Yeah, you can bet on Bournemouth, and certainly don't discount the draw as well, with the sheer amount of draws that Bournemouth have got across the season, which has got them into the position they are in. 16 draws this season for Bournemouth is crazy. 10 for Palace as well. So, look, I'm not going to say screams draw here, but it's certainly shouting it from a back room somewhere. Look, Bournemouth have been excellent this season for reasons we've discussed at length. I think the improvements to individuals like James Hill and 𝗀𝗏𝗄 have been fantastic. Scott's been great in central midfield, was the best player on the field in the win at Emirates a couple of weeks ago. Bit like the Brighton story, really. Again, a great coach, improves players. And I think there'll be some big sales this summer again. 𝗀𝗏𝗄 will go, Jimenez will go, maybe Scott will go, and they'll just build again. Eventually, it will catch them out, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. It's going to be a difficult job for Marco Rose to come in to replace Antonio Iraola, who we still don't know what his future is as well. But drawn a lot of games this season, been pretty decent at home as well, though. And it's very difficult to go there and get any sort of result. In terms of Crystal Palace, I've not been impressed by them in recent weeks. I think they deserve to get something from Liverpool last week. But, you know, XG, we won the game on XG is always interesting. Like, it reminded me of the West Ham game a few weeks ago for Liverpool. When a team is winning, obviously the other team are going to have more shots against you, and Liverpool always winning that game for so much of it. And so Palace had lots of chances. It took that kind of controversial 𝐬𝐻𝐻 goal for them to score one. I thought West Ham should have beat them previously, and of course they lost the Fiorentina game before that, and even the Newcastle match that was before that was a late dodgy penalty decided that one. So Bournemouth are able to win. I don't see a pathway for Palace to getting many more Premier League points. I mentioned the draw tally, so don't discount that at 4.37. That's the bet you're going to make some money on here. Otherwise, go the under and go tight. This will be a tight matchup. 171 for Bournemouth is not great. Bournemouth by exactly 1, which is essentially a tight victory, is 3.75, which I quite like. Look at the under here as well. Certainly under 3.5 in the game, maybe under 2.5. 1-0 to Bournemouth in a game that is not going to live long in the memory, but don't discount 0-0.
Indeed. The odds are too short for Bournemouth to win. This is true also. 𝐿, although it looks likely that Bournemouth win this one. Next one, the classic of England, Tom. Once upon a time, this was a great game. Not this season. Man United, Liverpool, not even for the Champions League spots, because both are going to qualify for the Champions League. I read the other day piece of a stat saying that Carrick has won as many Premier League games as Ruben Amorim. This is crazy how bad Amorim was for Man United, and I would say great success for Carrick. I guess he's not staying next season, but still good job for an interim manager. They beat Brentford and Chelsea the last 2 games. Liverpool also correcting the trajectory in the last 2 games between Palace and Everton. We saw Man United winning at Anfield. I guess this one is so difficult to bet on, Tom. I wouldn't put my money in either of these teams, to be honest.
Yeah, it's tricky, but I would say at home this season across the campaign, 11 wins in 17 is pretty good for Man United. That's not a bad record at all. And Liverpool away from home have not exactly been phenomenal this season. 7 away defeats across the campaign is not great. It's not awful with the 7 wins on top of that, but not incredible. Yeah, the Michael Carrick thing is interesting, what you said there about his future, because if they decide to let Michael Carrick go, and the mood music is that they will, what are we doing then? Are we going to bring in an old stager, an old hand? It's not him, but an Ancelotti type or whatever. Like, I think that's unlikely. And so you're looking at what, 𝗵𝗵 Alonso? Well, if Liverpool came up, 𝗵𝗵 Alonso would rather go there. Would Alonso take the Man United job with his Liverpool connections? I don't know. And then you look at Antonio Iraola, someone like that, who I think is a fantastic coach, but has never coached a really big club. And Man United is a mammoth club, despite their recent travail. So the appointment will be tricky, really tricky, if it's not Michael Carrick, who's won 9 of 13. He's done more than what was expected of him. I think we thought it might be a really tight race down the line to get Champions League qualification, and they're 2 points away from doing it, which they may well get here. So really interesting. I mean, Ruben Amorim was an all-time ridiculous boob. I had no idea what he was doing. He didn't understand the club. He didn't understand the league. The decisions he made on players were idiotic, and he'll go down, to my mind, as maybe the worst coach in Premier League history, mainly because of the resource he's got compared to some of the other ones. The other bad ones you can think of, at least they had no money and no resources, and they were just like, what do I do here? Whereas he had a summer and billions of pounds to spend and bought in his own players and biffed off players he didn't like and tried to rebuild the club in his own image. And they were absolutely awful. So, look, Carrick has salvaged the day. This team are playing reasonably well. Bruno Fernandes, once again, spectacular this season. Not quite had enough from Mbeumo in recent weeks, or Matheus Cunha in recent weeks, but Benjamin Sesko is now top scorer for Man United this campaign. So he's starting to come strong as the season goes on. Casemiro continues to be a threat at corners as well. And Maguire coming back in makes a difference. Like, he's the best defender at the club. People might malign Harry Maguire. I know he's sort of getting a bit old now. I think he's 33. He's the best defender at Man United and has been for the entire time he's been there. And I hope he goes to the World Cup with England as well, because he's been really, really good and is a massive threat at corners as well. In terms of Liverpool, I think that you've got a team here that are... I wouldn't say they're winding it down. I think that's unfair, but I do think this is a team that they are ready. They are due for big change. We know some of the big names are leaving, like Salah and Robertson. I think Salah, there's some talk that he might even make the squad for this game. I think it's unlikely, but he'll play again for them this season. The issues have been endless and obvious for a long time. Not a great deal of cover in central defence. There's been no right back all season. I think Curtis Jones might have been the best of the picks. I'm surprised it's taken so long for us to see this regularly. Great goal for the third last week from Florian Wirtz, but he's not done enough across the campaign. And 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶, we've barely seen him all season. You can see how unfit he looks as well. I think that in 7 weeks, he'd probably be fit again. Maybe he'll be fit enough for the World Cup for Sweden, but this 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶, after an hour, looks knackered. But we saw with his goal last week, the technical ability is still massively there. So look, goals in this for both teams. I think that's the first thing I'd be looking at. I think it might be a lot of fun compared to games between these two in recent history because there's nothing on the line here. So we might even get a low rent version of PSG against Bayern here in terms of let's attack, guys. Let's get people forward. Let's get bodies forward. Let's get 𝗀𝗵𝐿𝐴𝐴 forward. Let's get Dominic Szoboszlai forward. Let's look for goals. So look for the goals market here. I think over 2.5, maybe even over 3.5 goals in this game. Absolutely both teams to score, which is 1.4. On top of that, pick your result. You'll double your money. I would say draw is the most likely outcome. 2-2 is what I'm looking at here at just under 4. I think that's quite nice. If you're looking for a winner, I would just shade for Manchester United. Odds are really good for a home Man United win, considering the form they have been in at 2.42. Then you look at the individuals here. The individuals in form play for Man United. Fernandes to score or assist in this game. It happens every week, 1.72. To score on its own any time is double your money for Bruno Fernandes, and probably going to be a penalty. He will take it and he will score it. And I mentioned earlier 𝗵𝗔 𝐶𝐿, top scorer now for Man United in the season. 2.5 any time for him as well. 2-1, 2-2, 3-2. I think it'll actually be fun between Man U and Liverpool this weekend. I think it'll be fun.
Good. We have Taban telling us some tips. Bruno Fernandes to score from the penalty spot. Ramsey also going for a prop bet. Benjamin Sesko to score. We have, by the way, in Oddspedia now players markets. If you want to check, you have there the odds for some players to score. I think we can see it in the screen. There you go. This is kind of new, and this is a very good feature also to know how much the bookies are paying for someone to score or to get a yellow card or all this stuff that David is showing us. Let's check also our AI, the predictions for Smart Bet in this game. And we have over 4.5 goals, so the bookies also think this is going to be a fun game. Wow, the odds are 4.
Wow.
This could be a good bet, actually. And first team to score, Man United. All right, next game is Aston Villa Tottenham. Massive game, this one for the Champions League, but especially for the relegation for the Champions League. Aston Villa are +8 with Brighton, so they have their ticket there to the Champions League, and they are thinking in the Europa League semifinals against Nottingham Forest, but of course it's even more massive for Spurs. Finally, they won a football game. They suffered. They had to wait until the 85th minute to see Paulinho score the winner against Wolverhampton. First win, of course, for 𝗵𝗵𝗏𝗏. Next games, they have Leeds, Chelsea, Everton. Tom, are Tottenham gonna get something? Of course, if you wanna go to Villa Park, it's good timing with Villa thinking in the Europa League semi-final.
It is, but I do think with the loss against Fulham last week, the prospect of securing Champions League football comes back into focus for Aston Villa, where it wouldn't have been with that victory. They are 1 win short, I would say, of guaranteeing that Brighton can't catch them in Brighton's current form, in Bournemouth's current form. If they trail off Villa, there is every chance they might get caught. And then the entire financial model of the club is, of course, built on qualifying for the Champions League. 11 home wins in 17 this season, incredibly impressive. Even at times where I thought they might struggle this season, they found a way to win. The Sunderland game, the West Ham game recently. In between Europa League games, they've been pretty decent as well across the campaign. So, look, they're obviously favourites for this game. We're recording this before the game on the Thursday against Forest. But, like, a lot of players here I'd expect to play all the games because players want to play all the games. We're a few weeks away from the end of the season. McGinn, Rodgers, Buendia, Watkins, Tielemans, these are all guys who are going to play. To have no Kamara has been a problem. To have no Onana in recent weeks has been a problem. If Onana and Kamara are both fit here, I think it'd be a reasonably comfortable Villa victory. But if it's Bogard in central midfield who's simply not up to it, that does open up a space for a Spurs team who they've been quite good. Not great, but quite good. The organisation looks better. 𝐬𝐭𝐴 was ridiculous, and Thomas Frank, obviously that had to come to an end. But looking at a really solid 4-2-3-1 formation. The trouble is who's going to play. 𝗀𝗵𝗄's injury last week was dreadful for Spurs for many reasons. Of course, he's going to miss the World Cup as well. But added to Kudus and Maddison and all the other injuries they've got, a lack of creativity becomes desperate now for Tottenham. There is just no one who is really capable of playing a through ball, doing something different in this team. Solanke's injured too, so a half-fit Richarlison's got to lead the line with no backup. Look, the problems with Tottenham without Romero as well. I'm not sure Van der Ven's a good defender without Romero alongside him. Danso has struggled. Spencer struggled. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 made a good save against Wolves, but he struggled. Oh, it's horrible, this. It's a really horrible game because everything says to me that Villa are going to win. At 2.25, I think that's well worth a bet. They have put teams away this season at home who have been down the bottom of the table. Even when they've been on the jaws of losing, like against Sunderland, they've still found a way to win. There's decent rotation too. If Abraham comes in for Watkins from the start, for example, he'd be the best striker on the field. So they've got the two best forwards on the field. Even their second string with Ian Maatsen or Douglas Luiz, I think, Ross Barkley will be better than what Tottenham have got this season in terms of creativity. And they're the home team, and Champions League football is not assured. But in the relegation race, weird stuff always happens. I still feel like Tottenham, I just can't wrap my head around the prospect of them getting relegated. If they lose this game this weekend and West Ham have beaten Brentford, and these are big ifs, I think that might be it. I really think that might be it for Tottenham Hotspur because I don't think they're going to be able to overturn a 5-point gap with 9 on the table because West Ham aren't going to lose 3 in a row. So, huge game for Spurs. And I don't discount them winning this. I really don't. Because, again, weird stuff happens at the bottom of the table at the end of the season. But that's not something I'd be betting on here, even at 3.27. Villa's home form is too good across the campaign. So go for that first. Look at the draw at 3.84. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 1-1. And both teams happy to settle for that. If Villa win, I think they'll win without conceding. There's not a great deal of goals in this Tottenham team. So a nice little group bet of 1-0, 2-0 or 3-0 at 4.5. They beat West Ham 2-0 a few weeks ago. I think it'll be fairly similar to that. But also, don't discount 2-1 as well at 8.5. Go Aston Villa there. Score at 1-1. Going down the final stretch. Villa pressing. They get a late goal more than Tottenham will, I think. But yeah, going to be tight. Going to be real tight.
Poor Tottenham, poor Tottenham. I have to share what happened to me today, Tom. I was talking to an Indonesian guy, actually, like a fitness coach. And, oh, you like football? Yeah, I like football. I like the Premier League. I support Tottenham. I wake up at 2, 3, 4 a.m. to watch Tottenham, Tom. I felt really sorry for him. Poor man.
Poor man. Mind you, it's rubbish supporting everybody except Man City, really. So, you know.
Waking up this early to be a Spurs fan, but go where your heart brings you.
Did he say why? Did he say why? Fan?
Taban going for Tottenham to win is the only one. Actually, Konats, I feel sorry for Spurs. We too as well. It was a terrible blow, missing Solanke and 𝗀𝗵𝗄, also missing the World Cup. 𝗀𝗵𝗄, 𝐿𝐴 Aston Villa to win, and both teams to score. Great game, this one. And for Monday, we have 2 games. We have Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, with Nottingham Forest, of course, thinking in the Europa League, and not safe yet, actually, but they are in the way to get safe. If we check the standings, they are still in danger despite the great performance against Sunderland, and now is not the great timing also to go to Stamford Bridge since Rossinior is gone. Perhaps the players have gained confidence after winning the FA Cup semi-finals against Leeds. What do you expect here, Tom? Because the odds are very low for Chelsea, actually. 1.7, given their streak in the Premier League, is very, very low.
The odds are very low, and the odds of the Forest win at 4.9 are very tempting. They're very tempting for an upset bet at the weekend, considering recent form of both. Look, Chelsea had to sack LinkedIn Liam because he was a joke. He was a joke, and the players didn't respect him, and the media didn't respect him, and the fans didn't respect him, and he said stupid things like, you can't limit limitlessness. And he was giving Garnacho a note when they were losing against Paris Saint-Germain, saying something or other, probably believe or some nonsense. So he had to go. The players are now in charge. Like, Callum McFarlane is obviously a very good coach in terms of his kind of youth team experience, but he's not the manager of Chelsea. The players manage Chelsea, and they've come in and they'll tell him where to play. They'll tell him the formation, and this will make the players happy for a short period of time. It's not how you run a railroad long term, but Chelsea have always been a players' club. Enzo Fernandez is now the manager. João Pedro is now the manager. Caicedo is now the manager. 𝐿𝐿 is now the manager. They'll play 4-2-3-1. They will, I'm sure, up their game from what we saw last under Liam Rosenior. Winless in 3 Premier League games against Forest at home. Forest have got a good record in this game. And in fact, Chelsea have been pretty rubbish all season. But I do think there will be a bit of a breath of fresh air about Chelsea. Players are playing for their futures. Players are playing for contracts. And I think they pushed to get Rosenior out, in my opinion. Rosenior is now out, and now it's time to show what that was about. I think they were good against Leeds in the FA Cup semi-final, much better than I think they would have been if Rosenior had stayed. I think everyone's doing their jobs, everyone's going to be well briefed, and everyone's going to up their effort. So bad news for Forest in terms of Rosenior no longer being there. In terms of Forest, same as Villa, we don't know about the Europa League game in midweek, but the recent record has been fantastic. Unbeaten in 8 matches before the Villa game. We don't know about that as yet. Scoring 12 in their last 3, 5 in that away victory that's all but secured Premier League safety. He's gone to a sort of 4-4-2 in a way, similar to the West Ham formation right now, similar to what Chelsea have done for a lot this season as well when Maresca was there, which is 2 strikers, but one plays behind the other. 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐽 and Chris Wood playing together has looked really good at the times I've been able to see it. There's doubts about Murillo, and so 𝐿𝐭𝐤, he's pretty decent, but he's not as good as Murillo. That's the only doubt really defensively. Anderson, Sangare have been great in central midfield. Tough game, this. The only reason I'd shade for Chelsea is the 2 reasons mentioned. 1, Rosenior is gone. 2, Forest are in the middle of those Europa League games. But I think there will be goals at both ends. I think that without Murillo, Forest will concede. Forest are scoring lots of goals right now, and Chelsea will want to put a bit of a show here. So Chelsea never 2.5 goals is 2.5. Chelsea never 3.5 goals is 4.33. I'm only looking at Forest's recent games, 5-0 and 4-1. Brighton a 3-0 loss and 3-0 loss, and a 7-0 win against Port Vale for Chelsea. So there has been goals at the front end for both teams in recent weeks. Also look at that Forest win, just under 5. Oh, it's so tempting. It's so tempting. The best 2 or 3 players on the field this season have played for Nottingham Forest. Weirdly, Gibbs-White and Anderson and Williams, I'd say, are the top 3 players in terms of the season on the field. So don't discount it. And Forest have been on this great away run recently, so why not?
All right, Ramsey, Morgan gives White 2 score. He's in great form. 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐽 going for a draw. 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐽 Chelsea getting a no manager bounce. No manager is better than a bad manager. We've seen this in many teams. Taban going for Chelsea win and over 2.5 goals. And the last game on Monday is Everton Man City. Big game, this one for Man City. Could be a tricky one in Liverpool. Everton is still in the race for the 6th spot, although it's going to be tough for them after the defeats against West Ham. And Liverpool is only 1 win in the last 5 games. And Man City, Tom, your tip was correct against Southampton. They won, but it was a short win. They suffered, actually, against Southampton and also against Burnley. To be honest, I expected much more goals from Man City. How do you see this one? The odds are very low for Man City. Once again, this is not an easy game for Man City.
No, it's not an easy game. And I think 7 for Everton as a home win is silly. And so it might be worth a punt on that because it's not beyond the realms of possibility they would win. But at home this season, Everton have not been good enough. Not awful, because when you move to a new stadium, it can be difficult. I think 6 home wins across the campaign, plenty of draws is fine, but they haven't quite found their feet there. Home games are all about the creativity of individuals, and they've lost Jack Grealish for the season, and 𝗀𝗏, plenty of skill, but how much does he offer in terms of numbers? Not as high as maybe Everton would like if no one else is doing it. 𝗀𝗏𝗏 scores again last week, but he missed a big chunk of the season, as mentioned. Barry don't score many goals. Like, I just think they're lacking a couple of really good players, Everton. Obviously very well organised, don't concede many goals, but to win at a stadium like this, you need, I don't know, a Bruno Fernandes, for the want of a better player, someone who can just be a little difference maker, turn the game when required. And that has been lacking for Everton this season. We saw that against West Ham away. We saw it against Liverpool at home in that really open game, and they've lacked a goal scorer as well. So not a bad little bet if you want to go for someone at random this weekend, but I just think Man City, you saw it against Southampton, you saw it against Burnley, should have won that about 6-0, frankly. But once they're winning, it's tough to break them down. I think defensively, they've looked really good with 𝐬𝐭𝐿 and 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿. I think, we don't know on the fitness of Rodri, but Nico Gonzalez again, I mean, what an understudy to have for Rodri. If you're going to bring someone in for a few games, probably the second best player in that position in the league is quite handy. Heavy rotation last week as well, so they've all had a nice week off, or at least half a game off. Some of the star players. Don't expect to see people like Marmoush and Reinders and Foden, the heavy hitters, Jeremy Doku and Haaland, Bernardo Silva. They'll all come back in from being rested from the start at Wembley. And I just think City will keep grinding out results. They will grind and grind and grind victories. They've won their last 6 in a row. Some convincingly, some not so convincingly. It don't matter. This is Man City down the home straight. They win, win, and win again. So 1.5 for a City win is the most likely outcome, and I think it will follow a similar pattern to what we've seen in recent weeks. A tight City win on the margins. City and under 2.5 goals is 4.33. That's 1-0 or 2-0. Really healthy bet that, considering the likelihood of it coming off. Look at City again by exactly 1 goal. It's come off the last 2 weeks, so why not make it 3 in a row? City win. It's going to be tight. Not many goals.
City to win the league. 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴. Everton to park the bus after scoring. This could be a tricky one, but Connacht's also Man City must win. Man City will win. Well, Tom, 4 games to go only. This is running to an end. Let's check our tipster competitions. The Premier League one is about to finish, of course, 4 games to go. And the April one, same, since we are in the 30th of April. There you go, the winners. This is from Poland, no? If I can read well. There you go. And remember that next month we have a new one. There you go. This is the April one. And also check out Rivals, where you can create your own tipster league and play with your friends. It's completely free to participate. Tom, safe bet?
Yeah, tricky this week. There's not a great deal of safe bets, but I've gone with Leeds. I think Leeds will beat this dreadful Burnley at home and secure their Premier League safety. 1.46, not bad for a safe bet, really.
Thank you, Tom. And the ACCA?
Treble this week starts with Leeds, who will beat Burnley. I'm putting Arsenal in against Fulham and Man United to win England's 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴 against Liverpool, 4.51.
Okay, Tom, thank you. See you soon. See you next week. Bye-bye.